Chris, podcast 76, and we are late.
75.
What?
Is it 75 or 76?
It's 76.
Are you sure? Because episode
I'm,
75 is in the corner of the
I don't know.
corner.
Maybe somebody, maybe somebody can correct us.
I think it's 75.
All right. Well, podcast 75, guys. It's been a while since we recorded. We overlapped our week recording here. It's actually Saturday, and
It's
our
all your
podcast gets released on Sundays.
it's all your fault.
Yeah, and we usually record on Wednesday nights or Tuesday.
It's all Miller's fault, right?
Yeah.
Your Miller's,
So
my Miller's.
yep. It's been a busy week. And
For
I
those of
was,
you that don't know, Dave works for a company called Miller's, and I weld for a company named Miller's.
yeah,
Pretty weird.
yep. And it was busy. And
Yeah, we had a
yeah,
busy week.
I didn't have much time to do anything, so we had to keep putting off recording the podcast. And
Yep,
today I
yep.
was fishing all day and
Memorial Day weekend.
yep, happy Memorial Day weekend. I fished. I caught like 27 bass, three catfish down in Harper's Ferry, and I'm sunburnt to a crisp and hitting the farm up tomorrow and getting some work done, and then cookouts on Monday.
Yes, if you're a veteran, comment below. We thank you for your service
Yes, we do.
so that we can fish and hunt when we want.
That's right. So I can outfish you.
Never gonna happen.
Me and Chris we're gonna fish again sometime in June, hopefully, and we're gonna have a little competition.
Oh boy.
See what lure works the best.
He's gonna make me use a popper.
Yep. I'm gonna use my popper, and he's gonna use his whatever it is. What is
I
it?
I use a Rapala usually,
Rapala. There you go.
but I can
All
I
right.
can I can I can muster up a popper and have a head-to-head challenge.
Yeah, we'll see. In today's podcast, we've mentioned this. I can't believe we haven't had a podcast about this, but we've mentioned it in podcasts. But I want to go in depth to foiler feeding. Um, Foiler feeding, fertilizer, micronutrients. I want to go A to Z in depth. How to use it, the best time to use it, what it does, and how it can benefit you. It's getting that time. I've been seeing a lot of stuff on social media that people are, wanting to foiler feed now. And like, not to really toot my own horn here, but I like on YouTube 5, 6 years ago, I was really the first person to really bring foiler feeding into hunting.
He's tooting his own horn.
Yep, and that's true. It's honestly the truth. There was almost zero videos on YouTube about foiler feeding, and I have probably over 100 videos on foiler feeding. So I was kind of the one that brought that into. A lot of people don't know that, but that's the truth. So, Chris, have you ever foiler fed?
Oh yeah,
You like it?
many many times.
Do you like it?
I mean, there's a few products out there I've tried and didn't have much luck with. I mean, and there's a couple that I did use and I liked.
Hmm. There's a
Um,
lot. There's a lot of them out there now.
well, and there's a lot of gimmicks out there too
Hmm.
that say use our spray, it'll do this, and it don't have the right ingredients in it to do what they're claiming it's supposed to do.
Right. Right.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it'll add to to your soil amendments, but it doesn't do what they claim it should do.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah, and I'm going to go really, really in depth with this. And so basically, why don't you start with um, talking about when to foiler feed? When you want to foiler feed somebody plants a food plot and it grows or whatever. At what stage? How tall? But and when does somebody foiler feed their food plot?
all right, here's how I like to do it, and you may not agree with it, but I have reasons for it. And here's the thing:
Hmm.
when someone tells you you need to foil or feed, they're going to tell you after your plants are 4 to 6 inches, or after you have four leaflets out of the ground, or something. Depending on what you're planting. Yeah, I agree with that. But here's the reasoning why I do what I do, and I'll tell you what I'm doing. So what I like to do is already this time of year, some of my clovers 8 to 10 inches already. Okay, because I've had it established for a few years, and there's a few things popping out. There's a yellow rocket here and there, and there's some of these thistles there, and some high sprouts of grass, and I want to eliminate that. Well, it's that time that it's catching up and getting over top of my clover. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to spray my IMOX first. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm going to spray my IMOX. I'm going to wait a week, maybe 2 weeks, wait for that to brown up. And I'm going to go and I'm going to mow a couple of inches down my clover. Take the tops off the weeds and a couple of inches off the top of my clover. Never mow more than half your height of clover at a time, or it'll severely set it back and stun it, especially if it's dry out and it's droughty time, no rain in the forecast. So never mow unless you got that rain in the forecast. So anyhow, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mow it off first, let it recuperate a little bit for a week or two. And then I have a spray this year that's a foiler feed. And in PA, it is very well known that a lot of plots are low in sulfur. And I checked into my soil tests, and sure enough, my plots were a little bit low in sulfur. So this year, I I had purchased online a jug of foiler feed with sulfur in it and micronutrients, and that is my plan. So that'll take me out probably by the time this timeline plays out, probably the end of June, by the time I get that all done and finished.
Mhm.
And I have already went into all my spots that I'm going to plant my incognito screen, and I have already cultivated them and disked them. So I've worked the ground twice. And what I'm doing, instead of trying to use uh, more chemicals, I'm trying to go with less chemicals if possible. I'm trying to cultivate that every couple weeks and let the sun bake out the weeds and the undesirables so that I don't have to use as many chemicals. So I've already done that. So I'm getting ready to do the do the spray. Then I'll foiler feed, and then I'm going to be planting that incognito soon. So there will be some video footage coming there. But that's how I like to attempt it. I want to get rid of my weeds first, because if you start spraying all this good foiler fertilizers and amendments and things on your plots, and it's just going to feed your weeds if you don't eliminate your weeds first. You're
Mhm.
going to be feeding them before you try to eliminate them, which I think is silly. Let's eliminate them first and then feed what's left, which is all good stuff,
Now,
and give it a boost.
just to clarify, so people don't get confused, when you are spraying your IMAX, you're waiting 2 weeks, you're
Yeah,
mowing, and then you said you're gonna further feed,
yeah,
but you need to wait. People need to wait until the plants are have leaves on them. You don't want to be spraying
no,
just the stems.
nope,
You because of when you further feed something, it's absorbed through the leaves.
yep, and also, let me just say, I've already mowed my clover once,
Mhm.
and within 2 weeks, it's all headed out already.
I mowed my clover.
I'm all flowered up.
It was, oh man, it was end of April. Like it was already that tall the end of April. I
Mhm.
mowed it once. I haven't been back since, but I can see from my trail cam, it's
Mine bounced.
100% flowered out. Like,
It bounced and it's all flowered up.
yeah.
So
So,
I'm ready to roll, man. I am
yeah.
ready to roll.
So that's kind of like when, and it is true. Like, no matter what it is you're spraying, you need to wait until that plant has developed leaves on it, 4 to 6 inches tall,
Yeah.
because you got to remember when the food plots are growing, those plants are fresh and tender. So they're susceptible to being harmed if you spray them too early.
Sure.
Natural browse is different because it's there year round, so it's in those harsh conditions, and it's able to tolerate more stress than a young tender soybean plant,
Yeah,
for
and
instance.
let me add to that. Like, here's a few things. I don't know. Some people might disagree with this too, but I'm going to say it. This is how I approach it, just for safety reasons. And I do not spray in the direct sunlight. If it's blazing, if it's above 80 degrees or something, I don't spray then. I wait till it cools off a little bit right before dark or something. Not when there's dew on. Don't do it when it's wet because some of this stuff has fertilizer in it. So you're not wanting to spray fertilizer on wet plants. Okay, so don't take that wrong. I'm talking about when the sun starts to drop and you get the shade because I'm up against the wood line and the woods line shades my plot, a couple hours before dark and it starts to cool off. So that's when I like to spray in the evening before the dew starts coming on. I just wanted to add that.
Hmm. So yeah, that's a good idea. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what foiler feeding is and how it kind of works,
Sure.
basically. So foiler feeding is out, it's a liquid. There are some out there that would be a granular that would be dissolved, but most of them are liquids that you mix with water and you apply directly to the plants. Now, m- probably all foiler feeds can be applied to your food plots, your natural browse, fruit trees, nut trees, and things. And um, I take foiler feeding to the extreme. And anybody that's watched videos, I have a four wheeler with a 50-gallon sprayer and a pressure washer. And we've done this at the old farm, and I do it at the new farm. Is I mix 50 gallons of water, the appropriate amount of whatever foiler feed I'm using. With now it's going to be liquid courage. I'll mix that in there. I'll drive through my farm, all the logging roads, and I'll literally just pressure wash everything because I actually made a post in the Domain Nation page today that too many people focus on just food plots and they forget about actual natural browse is what deer consume. It's in the woods year round, and that's how they survive is off natural browse. So in the spring and summer, I focus on spraying all of that, all the natural browse around my field edges, through the logging roads, anything that I can get to with that pressure washer, I'll spray. Fruit trees, we sprayed the old apple trees at the old farm. We got on a 12, back then we didn't use a pressure washer, we were using just the ATV wand, but we got on like a 12-foot ladder and I was on top of that 12-foot ladder spraying those giant apple trees. And then that same year we had amazing apples. But the way the further feed works and how it can benefit you is that when you're spraying the leaf, most of it, some of them are micronutrients, but a lot of them are actually just fertilizer. But either way, you spray it on that leaf, that plant a lot of them will loosen the tissues of that plant and allow that plant to absorb that product. When you're absorbing it, you're reversing nature because that plant gets its nutrients from uptake from the root system. And then
Hmm.
you got sun on it and everything that photosynthesizes.
Yeah.
And but now you're giving it to the plant in reverse. So that plant's
Mhm.
going to suck that in and give
And
it's like a quick boost. And
it
a lot of
reverses it and it goes to the roots, and you're using what's
hmm
called translocation.
yeah, there you go.
It's going through the leaflet and working
Hmm.
its way down through the plant to the roots, and then going to come
Yep.
back up.
Hmm. Now,
Translocates.
I don't think that you should use foliar fertilizer or micronutrients as a replacement of ignoring the soil. Anytime you plant something, you should always focus on soil health. Foliar feeding is like it's just a boost. It's a boost to that plant to up the nutrients in the plant, and it's literally absorbed that way. And this goes into, I mean, if you start spraying all your browse and stuff, you can literally take your property up a level because you got to remember deer eat 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 pounds of food per day. If you're further feeding it with micronutrients and fertilizer, you're increasing the nutrient value of that plant. And it's a very powerful thing to do. I think this will be like 6 or 7 years now since I've been foliar feeding, and it's cool. It's a cool process. And if you ever do a soil sample and you actually get a micronutrient test, micronutrients are your least. They're the least amount of nutrients in your soil. They're micronutrients are your minors, and your fertilizer is your majors. And your minors are lacking in soil, and they're lacking in vegetables that you buy. It's just the soil is so crappy that it's lacking. So a cool trick is that if you're foliar feeding your food plot, let's say you're spraying annuals and you're spraying them with micronutrients, you can turn that back into the soil and then let those plants decompose in the soil. And it's very minor, but you will increase the micronutrients in the soil by the decaying plants that you're turning back in that they're decomposing. So that's a cool tip for anybody trying to increase micronutrients in the soil.
Good job, Dave.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Eh, he's tooting his own horn again.
But that's basically how it works. I mean, it's simple. Like
Now,
you
some of them have their own surfactants,
mhm,
and what's the other word?
stickers.
Yes, couldn't think of that. I should have known that. It's my freaking channel name. Duh. Anyhow, yeah, some of them have stuff mixed with them to make it cling to the plant, and some of it has surfactant to help it loosen, like Dave said, loosen the pores and let it be
Absorbed.
absorbed easily. Now, some people will tell you, oh, a couple of drops of Dawn dish soap. I've never done it. I don't see the reason why you need it.
No, I wouldn't do that to
I
foliar
not.
fertilizer.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Um, I don't think. I mean, there are foliar fertilizers out there that have that product, but I don't think it's needed.
Mhm,
I think if you do that, you get it on the plant, and between the dew or the upcoming rain, as soon as it starts getting wet, if there's any residue left on it, it's going to get sucked in quick.
mhm. Yeah,
You know,
I try to spray either like you said, early morning or late afternoon. That way you're not, stressing. You don't want to stress the plant by it
right?
being 90 degrees out and you're spraying that sucker, directly with fertilizer. But
Yeah,
um, it works well. And a lot of these fertilizers now have sugar in it because sugar is a carbohydrate.
carbohydrate. Yeah,
Um, and it feeds the microbes in the plants and the roots and everything. So, you can add sugar to it if obviously you want to follow the directions, but with the liquid courage, you can add sugar to it, which I'm going to do tomorrow when I do this process. But because I got, like I said, I got a pressure washer to set up, and I mean, I spray with the pressure washer. You spray with the wind, and you're spraying everything. And a lot of guys don't understand that when I do that is when I'm spraying with the wind, it's atomizing that spray and it's
yeah,
traveling 100 yards through the woods,
yeah.
or
Right.
it might not be 100 yards, but 50, whatever it is. And people are like, you're wasting product. No, I'm not, because you're spraying natural browse that deer eat. Spray everything. They eat it, they consume it. And you know, it's not wasted at all. And I primarily focus on, deer edges, because deer are creatures of edge. So they travel the edges. I want to spray all the browse. I mean, I focus on like, I mean, everything, but like when I see like a American beauty berry plant, I spray that sucker. I spray ragweed, all my clover plot, I'm gonna be spraying my beans. Um, and there's a couple fruit trees I'll be spraying. All the logging roads, I'll drive up and down the logging roads and spray. And I'm into it. I love further feeding, and I will always probably always do it.
Yeah. This upcoming week, I'll be spraying the IMOX so that in another week or two, I can go out and mow and get my foiler feed on towards the end of June, like I said. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'm getting the area I live in is a little bit behind everybody else, so that's
Yeah.
why I have to wait a little bit before I can do all mine.
I was amazed when I came up there fishing. What was
Yeah,
that, May 15th or something?
something like that.
It was night, and we're 4 hours away. I think we're like 240 miles away. It was night and day difference between
Yes.
my house, my area, and your area.
Yep.
You
I
had
was I was just getting leaflets of leaves
There
were
was
just
no
starting to
leaves.
yeah, they were just starting to bloom.
Yeah, and here was fully leafed out.
You were like summertime down there
Yeah,
already.
100. It was like summertime.
I'm
It
still
looked like
going through
summer.
spring.
That's crazy.
I got pollen flying here right now.
Mhm.
Everything's green and yellow. Like at your place, you have probably haven't seen pollen in a month. It's probably all
It
done.
it's starting to diminish now, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably all done down there. It's just
Yeah.
starting here, man. I'm starting to sneeze like crazy. My eyes are itchy when I mow.
Mhm.
You
Yep.
know, it's
Yeah.
crazy how much behind, how much further behind I am than other people. I see
Well,
people talking about stuff on these forums, and I'm like, I'm not even there yet.
I'm actually 2 weeks behind my schedule that I wanted. I wanted to I wanted to plant my food plots this weekend.
Mm.
So, but I'm not. So I have to spray my plots this weekend to kill it and then plant 2 weeks later, which is
Right.
fine. I'm planting beans, so that still should be good, and I'm planting incognito and all that, so I'm still safe, within the window, and obviously the beans are going to get tilled back in um, late summer, for to plant a fall plot. But when these things come up, and my ink, like some people will ask me, Dave, how the heck do you have like so good looking incognito? And I'm like, well, here's the process. I spray to kill the weeds. I plant incognito. I um, put the fertilizer down, and as soil sample recommended. 30 days later, I come back in and broadcast it with triple 19 again, and then 30 days after that, I hit it with further fertilizer,
Hmm.
micronutrients, and
Yeah.
that stuff just takes off, and it's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I had an instance a couple years ago when one of those tropical storms came through, and my screening, some of it got blowed down, but it wasn't
Hmm.
broken. It
Yeah,
wasn't broken. It was just all arched over, and it
right.
was just too top heavy to stand.
They
So
rebound.
I went and got a foiler spray out, and I went and well, first of all, I side dressed it with 0060. I side dressed it with some of that, and then I waited a week, and then let that get rained on and kind of worked in. And I went back and I foiler sprayed it after that, and three-quarters of all that stuff stood back up because the stems weren't broke.
Yep.
They were just leaned all over. They didn't have
Hmm.
any strength left in the stalks.
Right. Yeah.
Once they were top heavy and they got blowed over, they couldn't stand back up. So I
Hmm.
had to give them a boost, man.
Yeah. A thing too with that is, like you said, you can foiler fertilize them, but also plant your screening later into the summer.
Hmm.
Because if you plant it later into the summer, it's not going to get as tall, before it goes dormant.
Yeah,
So
because
the
it'll
taller.
dry out and get brown, and
Yeah.
it
Right.
might get brittle on you at that
Yeah.
point. You want
Right.
it as green as can be,
Hmm.
at that point in time.
Yeah. And obviously, the taller it is, the more tendency that could have to fall over. So
Yeah,
planting,
yeah,
that's
for
one
sure.
thing you can plant later is definitely any kind of
Mhm.
sorghum or um, any kind of screening product such as that. And then yeah, hit it with a shot of fertilizer, and we're using liquid courage this year from Domain, and it's everybody's talking about it in the Domain Nation group. That's why we wanted to do this podcast, because there was a lot of questions in there, and some people, I wouldn't say confused, but they just had questions about how to use liquid fertilizer and
Well,
micronutrients. So,
talking about confused, I mean, it's all your preference, but I saw a guy post today saying it's going to be a nice weekend. Who's planting fall plots?
hmm,
Yeah, I actually seen that.
interesting.
And some people were liking the comment and saying, "Yeah, I'm putting mine in this weekend." I'm thinking, "What? Fall plots? We're not even in
Why?
June yet." Yeah,
Why?
why? So yeah, there's some confusion still out there, Dave. We still need to educate more.
All right.
I
Well,
know I know we get frustrated, we beat the dead horse sometimes, but
yep.
there's still somebody out there that can use one of these podcasts. No matter if there's other guys that think we're not smart or whatever, there's still somebody we can help.
Hmm. So, if anybody has questions about liquid fertilizer, I'm the master at liquid fertilizer for their feeding. Ask us. Send us a message. I'll help you out. Seriously though, I'm really into it. I can help you out with it, and then leave us a comment on any questions you have about that. But Chris, I heard you mentioned to me
Hmm.
that you have a secret podcast for me next week that you're going to spring a question on me,
Yep.
and I don't know what it is. You
Nope.
won't tell me, but you're going to spring a question on me, and you're going to ask me for my
Yep.
opinion.
And it's something we've touched on before, but
Okay.
I had a very specific question, and I think I have some specific answers, and I know you'll have some opinion.
Was it from YouTube?
It was actually from the YouTube rendezvous that I went to this past week at Freezer Bond Outdoors in Clarion, Pennsylvania.
Somebody
It wa
asked you this question.
Yes, it was another
Gotcha.
YouTuber, but he's not really that huge of a hunter. He was a trapper,
Mm,
but he's getting into hunting more and more, and he's having some issues with what's going on in his property, and he wanted me to address the question. So we've got another good topic for next week.
okay. Well, hopefully next week we're back on track, on time, and then I'm
Yep.
gonna have to get this edited and sent out to you tonight because
Okay, man.
I'm not gonna have time tomorrow. So this will go out
Alrighty.
tomorrow at 5 p.m.
Okay, guys. Questions below. Thank you, veterans. We'll catch you on 76.
Later.